Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to Honoring the Journey. Leslie Neese here with my brand new friend, MaryB. Is it Safrit? Is that how we say your name?
That's
awesome. Love it, Safrit. And MaryB is so freaking cool. I've been doing a little bit of research. I do that because, when people are on the podcast, I want to know, like, what was this person about? For one thing, I think we have a lot in common because we hail from the Bible Belt and have now kind of landed in different areas. She's in New York City. She is a podcaster. Her podcast is called Found Family. And she's also a writer and content creator. And she's been through deconstruction, probably still going through it because I don't think you ever stop. But anyway, I am so excited to hear about your journey, MaryB. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I can already tell. We were just literally, 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Maybe. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I love it.
The vibes are good. Yeah.
The vibes are off the charts. I'm loving it. Well, okay. So let's start. I'm going to do a random question. I love the random question. I don't know if you've heard my podcast. And it's funny, the last few I've forgotten to do it and I don't know why, but I was like, I am going to ask her a very random question just because it's fun. And I think it's fun to kind of catch people off guard and be like, oh, okay, that's what she's asking about. So when you were a child, let's talk about little MaryB. Is that what you were called as a little girl too?
My whole life.
Your whole life.
MaryB. Yep.
Aw, that's fun. Okay. So when you were little MaryB, what did you like to play? Like, what was your favorite game or your favorite thing to do when you were a kid? Do you remember?
I spent a lot of time outdoors. I grew up on a farm. So yeah, I spent a lot of time outdoors, like was a tomboy, climbing trees and doing farm chores and whatever. But yeah, I spent a lot of time outdoors, just kind of I would sing a lot. I would was in my imagination a lot. Yeah, just always have been kind of a in my own world kind of person. And it started from an early age, I would say.
Don't you think kids are missing out today? I think about that a lot because I kind of grew up. My stepdad, his parents owned a farm.
Okay.
And whenever we would go there for the summer or whatever, it was so freaking magical. Like there were never official games, quote unquote, but there was like a little creek, a creek. We called it a creek.
Yeah.
It was a creek in West Virginia. And we would play by the creek and we would, collect bugs and play with lightning bugs. And it was just such magic in my mind. Do you remember the lightning bugs when you were a kid?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I loved just being barefoot in the grass. I did not like wearing shoes.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I still don't like wearing shoes, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I have old lady feet, so I do have to wear my sneakers with my custom orthotics or whatever.
You're so young. You're kidding me.
I know. It's just, I was gifted plantar fasciitis when I was 23, I think. It's just been a struggle ever since. But I do enjoy being barefoot in the grass, which is kind of funny now living in New York.
That's hard to find. There are little patches here and there, but don't dogs
they're
claim
mostly covered in urine? Yeah, absolutely. So I don't go barefoot very often, if ever.
Well, so how do you get this part out of your system? Do you go on vacations to places that have bigger patches of grass? Is that what you like to do? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do. I just got back from Fire Island with my boyfriend. Fire Island is very known for being a queer hotspot, but there's also another part of Fire Island, and that's the part that we were on because a couple of his uncles have houses out there. So it's always nice to go where you can stay for free. And just be out. I also grew up near on the coast of North Carolina near the beach. So I spent a lot of time at the beach as a tot as well. So that's always something that's very lovely for me, except the water up here is so cold.
Oh, I'm sure. I was like, do you ever go in the water? Probably not. Yeah.
No, I don't. I
need a full wetsuit.
My boyfriend's like, oh, it feels so amazing. It's so refreshing. I was like, no, it's a nightmare. It's too cold.
He likes the cold plunge, huh?
He really does. Yeah,
That's
he's all about
fun.
it, and I'm like, that just sensory-wise is a
Mm,
nightmare for me.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm just
me
gonna
too.
sit here on the beach under the umbrella with my book, and
Oh,
that's
that's
me.
bliss right
That's my
there.
vibe. That's me.
I love the beach, but I don't love being in the water unless it's warm and I
Yeah,
can see through it. I don't wanna go into water usually the
okay,
East Coast beaches, not so much, but,
okay.
like, come over, into the Gulf or
Mhm.
Hawaii, or I grew up in Okinawa,
Okay,
Japan, which is like like Japan's Hawaii, where you could just see everything underneath, so it
yeah.
wasn't as scary as like, "Oh, what's happening here?" But I digress. Well, that was fun. Did you have fun with that? I had fun with that. That was fun to,
Yeah,
like,
that's
remember all the
reminisce
things.
on the idyllic parts of childhood. Yeah.
Yes, because there were some good you know what? And it's funny, I'm like a faith transitions coach, and I work with clients, and a lot of times I'm like, there were good things about what you went through. Let's talk about those. What are some of the things you wanna bring with you? And
Yeah,
people are always like, "Oh, wow, that's right. Yeah, there was there was some good stuff too."
yeah.
So, well, why don't we just, like, dig in then? Okay, let's talk about your childhood, and did you grow up in church? Were your parents in ministry? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I did grow up in church. My parents don't go to the same church and never have, but they are married still.
Mhm.
My dad is very involved in his Methodist church, my mom in her Episcopalian church. So I grew up kind of bouncing between the two, kind of depending on where my friends were or where I was needed to, acolyte or serve or whatever it was.
Mhm.
But I ended up mostly in my mom's church, which was the Episcopal church. And I also grew up, I will say, going to Catholic school for elementary and middle school. And then I
Ah.
also was in the South, which is very just like Southern Baptist coded, always
Oh,
everywhere.
Bible Belt 100%.
So I had a bit of an eclectic spiritual upbringing from the get-go. But I will say that my parents were not evangelical, like really at all. Very not. I was very blissfully unaware of a lot of the stuff that a lot of my
So you
friends
don't have
talk
rapture
about.
trauma? Are you saying?
I don't have rapture trauma, thank
Lucky
goodness.
girl.
I have plenty of other trauma, don't you worry.
And
But
we'll get into that as
it's
well.
not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that. So I was very, fortunate in that church was quite a safe place for me.
Mm, that's
Um,
nice. Well, you
and
don't hear that a lot.
yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And
They
it's
yeah.
true. There are churches where you can feel safe.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not perfect, definitely had some stuff. My first encounters with evangelicalism was in, the church I ended up in my mom's church, and it was, just because of we got a new associate priest, and I started dating his son, and they definitely were more the Episcopal church is funny because it's like all y'all come, anyone can come, it's great, whatever, but that does give you, like, truly you'll find the whole spectrum of Christianity from, like, quite conservative evangelical people to universalists, and they're all just in there, and so,
It's interesting. I feel like that's what eternity is going to be like, but
yeah,
everybody just,
totally.
it's like, it's not about
Yeah.
beliefs, it's about faith. So,
Yeah, and they're definitely, I think, within the Episcopal Church, some churches that steward that maybe a little better than others, where
mhm.
some it's like, let's just not talk about anything. Let's just pretend that these differences don't exist. And some maybe lean more into it. And you'll find churches that are also kind of lean one way or the other or along the spectrum. But mine was like, I think, pretty relatively moderate for being a church in the South. But yeah, I ended up dating, the pastor's kid, the associate priest's kid, um, end of high school into college, and that, he was pretty I mean, I don't
Mhm.
wanna, like I don't wanna say anything bad about his character. I'm sure hopefully he's evolved. I
I'm
have
sure.
evolved.
You know what?
You know what I mean?
We all go through stuff.
We were both,
We do.
like, 16 years old, so
Mhm. Yeah,
I say
there's
this
that too.
with all of the grace in the world, but, just, with that caveat kind of out there, it was not a healthy dynamic. He definitely I was very drawn to him because he was very charismatic. He was very certain, about a lot of things when it comes to faith, like
As are
right,
evangelicals.
what
Yes.
was right and what was wrong. And if you don't like it, too bad. It just is what it is. He ended up going to Liberty, if that
Mm,
gives you any kind of indication.
yes.
And loved it, absolutely loved it. So, he was just that kind of person, and I was, like, very I don't know, I had a tendency towards codependency that I didn't realize at the time, and, like, just was really drawn to that kind of controlling certain, like, personality, and, yeah, I, like, forfeited a lot of myself without even necessarily realizing I was doing it. I was just like, "Oh, okay. That's what he
Mhm.
thinks, so that's what it is," and I don't feel like I have that strong of feelings about it, so, okay, whatever. Um, so, yeah, that was kind of my off-ramp, on-ramp, whatever. If you're driving on the highway, I don't know why that's the metaphor I went with. I don't really drive anymore. But,
That's true.
um,
You're in New York.
that was my that was my on-ramp into evangelicalism, and from there, got involved with, Young Life, which was a Christian outreach
Mhm.
organization, and did a year-long mission trip with a pretty charismatic evangelical organization, and then was part of a church, during grad school that was, pretty culty. It was one of those, like, non-denominational, actually Southern Baptist,
Yes.
like, kind of situation.
98% or so of them actually are
Yeah,
Southern Baptist. They
yeah,
say non-denominational because they don't wanna freak you out, but yeah,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
most
yeah.
of them. Not 98. I totally made that up. Please know if you're listening. That was way out of left field, but it's how
Love
it feels. Being from the Bible Belt myself, like, I totally know
Yeah,
that every time I'd go to a non-denominational, if I dug deep enough, I'd realize, "Oh, you're really Southern Baptist. You just don't want
yeah,
people to know that." Okay,
yeah,
we're cool, you know?
yeah.
And it actually gave me comfort, so
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah, so I was at one of those for a couple of years and then moved up here and was part of a PCA, Presbyterian Church in America, which is the I don't know how many Presbyterian churches there are, but it's I think it's one of the bigger ones, and it's very conservative, like complementarian and non-affirming and pretty, I don't know, Calvinistic, I guess, in
Yeah.
its theology, but
Mhm.
still also that very certain right and wrong binary way of seeing the world, which moving to New York, I didn't know
Mm.
anyone. I didn't have a job. At the time, I was pursuing a singing career, a career in theater and opera, and that's like a very uncertain, scary thing to do. And so I was really um drawn to that certainty, drawn to that sense of like, okay, this is, I know how this works. I know how this kind of dynamic works. I know like if there are rules, I can follow them. Great.
Mhm.
Fine. Even if there's some that I don't agree with, I'm not gonna rock the boat. I'm not gonna expect anything to change. But I know how to like be in this environment.
Mhm.
Um, and so that
Sounds
was
like you're pretty adaptable,
yeah.
or maybe a people pleaser? Were
Uh,
you?
maybe a little bit. Yes, I identify as a recovering people pleaser, very much
Amen, sister. I am right there with you. If I could high five you right now, I totally would, 'cause
so.
it's such a difficult thing. I do think a lot of women in religion are
Mhm.
taught that's the way to live. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a complementarian kind of thing too, and
Mhm.
also, like, you're a woman and you're carrying the truth of the gospel, and if you don't treat people well, if you stand up for yourself and somebody gets mad,
Yeah.
you've lost them because now they're never gonna wanna hear what you have to say about Jesus. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so much pressure.
So much pressure. I think too, there is that, I it's probably a thing in a lot of different cultures, but, I feel in the South, there is very much that version of hospitality that's, like, projecting I don't know, let me start a little bit back. I feel like part of what I learned growing up in the South, there's a lot of great things that I learned, but also as a woman, just I feel like I was socialized to just like, go along with everything and that my job was to make other people comfortable no matter what the cost to
Mhm.
myself, that, like,
Yes.
it was inhospitable for me to make somebody else bear the burden of, like, discomfort or whatever, so that was something that I could take on as
Whoa.
even as just, like, an act of hospitality,
Yes.
and if
It
there's
was the loving thing to do,
it
as
was
we were
the
taught.
yeah, exactly, it was the loving thing to do, and I think, like, to a certain extent, sure, yeah, great, but, like, I also realized, at a certain point and through therapy that, like, that it can become a very manipulative and dishonest and unhealthy way
Mhm.
of being.
Yeah.
And so I think that being like a woman in the South was part of it, but I think growing up, not realizing I was queer for a very, very long time just kind of conditioned me to hide and also to just feel like there was some part of me that was too much of a burden, that was wrong, that was, gonna was not something that I should inflict on other people,
So
because
wait, you okay. Let's talk about this for a second because you said you had a boyfriend, but now you're saying you're queer. Let's
yeah.
How does that work? And when did you know that you maybe had this same sex kind of thing going on as well?
So I'm bi, so
Okay.
all the genders are on the table for me,
Yeah.
which made it very challenging to realize what was going on for a long time because
Mhm.
because I, do have, hetero presenting attractions where it's like
Right. Yeah.
I can be in a
I know
relationship
a lot of
with a
people
straight
in your
cis man,
situation where
and
you're like drawn to somebody's um their soul
yeah,
and like it's like nothing else matter like oh you're a good human, I
yeah,
want to spend time with you and I'm attracted to the beauty of who you are,
yeah,
not like oh because you're a girl I like you or oh because you're a boy I like you, no, because
yeah,
you're who you are. Yeah,
yeah,
I used to be so afraid of that,
mhm,
Mary B, and now of course I'm not, but I very much I know a lot of people who are like that now, and
yeah,
I think it's kind of beautiful that they can just look at a person and go, "You're worthy of love," like,
mhm.
whether they're this or that, you know?
Yeah, totally. Getting comfortable with that part of myself has definitely transformed the way I love other people, including, like, it's made me a better friend in
Mhm.
so many different ways because I was so closed off before because I didn't realize, like, I wasn't ready to acknowledge, like, the depth of feeling that was inside of me, and I was so afraid of it that, I mean, I grew up in purity culture as well,
Oh,
so,
Lord.
like,
Mm.
you
Yep.
can't be friends with someone who you might be attracted to. It's the
Yeah.
whole Billy Graham rule, which just totally screws over
Well,
bisexuals. We just can't be
let's
friends
talk
with
about the Billy
anyone.
Graham rule. What do you mean by Billy Graham rule? Because maybe somebody's listening and they're like, "What?"
Well, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's this kind of, I don't know, like it's a little When Harry Met Sally as well might be a good frame of reference. And I think Mike Pence like talked about it back when he was vice president as well,
Mhm.
just from a more recent cultural reference. And it's this idea that like men and women can't be friends. Um, and like to the extent that a man should not be hanging out one on one with a woman, that they're like and cannot get like emotionally close to they can't get emotionally close to each other because it leads to inevitably is going to lead to some kind of impropriety, and it's kind of a
Right.
like better safe than sorry kind of
Mhm. Yep.
vibe to has that to it. And so I think there was like just this fear in me because I didn't understand what was happening in me and wasn't ready to acknowledge how I was feeling because I also didn't grow up around, I mean, yeah, I'm sure I grew up around queer people without realizing that I was
Mhm.
growing up around queer people, but I don't even know that bisexuality was a concept that I was aware of until I was an adult.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't have any frame of reference for what was happening in me. And there were
Even
just
with all that certainty?
yeah, yeah. Well, it was easy
Imagine that.
write off whatever
Mhm.
feelings I was experiencing,
It was
because
a temptation, it was a this, it was a that. You probably
yeah,
had a label for it because it's funny as you're saying this, like, I can hear old evangelical Leslie, I call her Sister Christian. She's,
mhm,
like, on this shoulder all the time, whispering into my ear about, like, how I should be feeling about things, even though,
mhm,
the real Leslie is over here, and
mhm,
she's like, "Don't listen to her, she's scared," you know? But
yeah,
I just remember thinking, "Oh, that person is deceived. Oh, that person is
mhm,
choosing their lifestyle over
yeah,
a relationship with God. Oh, that person doesn't know any better."
yeah,
But see, I know everything.
yeah.
So they're so lucky I'm in their
Bless
life.
your hearts. Yeah,
Yes, bless
very.
their little hearts. Oh,
I call that
yeah.
person my inner Theo bro, whatever.
Oh, that's fun.
'Cau it's just, like, the worst person you can think of on Twitter or whatever
Oh,
who's
yeah.
spouting the most hateful theology.
The crusader.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I call mine because he's a
Okay.
Jew. Because
I
he's
like it. That's fair.
um, so yeah, I think, just I don't know, I guess a story to kind of make this concrete for everyone. I remember, there was a guy who I was good friends with, and, in college, for a college and post-college, and, he was dating a friend of mine, and I was friends with him, as well, and we got pretty close, whatever, and, like, in my head, I had a really hard time figuring out for the longest time how I felt about this guy because also I just, like, what had shut down all of my feelings, all of my potential feelings of attraction after breaking up with this guy, this pastor's kid. Um, and like, so I was just very unaware of what was going on inside of me generally. But I had this like way of rationalizing that I was just feeling platonic feelings towards this guy by being like, oh, but this friend of mine, I want to text her just as much. And like, I don't feel differently about him than I do about this female person in my life. Therefore, this is a platonic relationship. And
Mhm.
it's so funny to look back on because once I did realize, like, "Oh, no, I'm into this guy," I didn't, like, put it together
I
that
might
that
be into that girl
might
too.
mean anything about those female friendships. I was
Yeah.
just like,
Well, it
like,
wasn't on the
God
table for
bless.
you.
It wasn't on the table.
No,
It wasn't I was
no.
even though, like, I mean, I was in I studied music. I was in the performing arts, so there were all sorts of gay people that I was friends with, but, for me, it was just like, that's even though, like and that was a huge part of my deconstruction and a huge part of me starting to explore and, like, open myself up to what the reality of what was happening inside me
Mhm.
was these friendships with these lovely queer people who, like and this was I would say this was during grad school most pointedly, where, like, I was at this Southern Baptist church and where there was just so little grace
Mm.
for so many people. I mean, like, the pastor from up front would say things like, "I don't agree with anything about feminism except that men are the problem." Stuff like that, and just, like, rail against, like, abortion and liberals and just all of this stuff, right? So very little grace in that environment. And then I was at school and these queer people were, like, so kind and
Mm.
so lovely and so wonderful, and also I was like, I feel like a kinship with them that I can't really explain, and I don't want to really examine, but I find myself drawn to these people and this kind of love way more than
Well,
on a
it
certain
feels
level
very
than
authentic.
yeah, it's authentic, it's forgiving, it's
Mhm.
generous, and not to say that, like, queer people are saints or perfect or whatever,
No, no, of course not. No, but
but
there is something about just embracing love to
yeah,
me that is beautiful. And though I'm not queer, I love my queer friends for
yeah,
that. I love that they've had to fight to
Yeah.
love, and I don't mean physically. I mean just fight for who they are, fight for their place in line, fight for equal rights and being able to do the thing. The fact that you love so deeply that you have to even fight for it,
Yeah.
to me, it just breaks my heart.
Yeah. Yeah, and it took me a long time to get to a point. I mean, I came out to myself 2 years ago, a little over 2
Mhm.
years ago, and before that was a really long journey of just, like, even just coming to terms with myself as a sexual being, period. And then from there, like, exploring what that meant, because to me, it was all a slippery slope. Inevitably, that was gonna end in, like, 15 STIs and
Yeah.
an unwanted pregnancy and, probably drugs. It just, like, every horrible thing you can imagine.
You might turn to
Well,
salt, a
yeah,
pillar of salt. Yeah, there's
exactly.
so many things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I think that, like, I know that coming out has been one of the best things for my people pleasing, because it's
Mm.
such a deal breaker for so many Christians that I was
Mhm.
trying so hard to impress for so long.
Yeah,
And
that
now
is a
it's
deal breaker.
just by being myself, I'm already, like, I don't count, you
Well,
know?
it's interesting to me, because I didn't come out as queer, but I came out as queer supporting. And
Mhm.
that was the line. They drew the line. They're like, you've lost it. You've completely lost your mind now. And I'm
Yeah.
like, have I though? Because like I don't feel at all like I have. I feel like I'm finally finding who I
Mhm.
really am.
Yeah.
And deconstruction is almost as bad to the
Mhm.
in their eyes, but at least they're like, well, she probably still believes that, at least being queer is wrong. And then when they find out that's not how I feel anymore, they're like, oh, wait, okay, she really has lost her mind. It is the thing that they look at and
Yeah.
then decide whether or not you're a true Christian or if you're completely deceived and on a slippery slope to hell. That's It's been my experience anyway. I don't know about in general, but in my experience, it was almost like they thought there was hope for me, even in deconstruction,
Yeah.
until they saw me wear a rainbow shirt.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a litmus test, and I think, there are a lot of litmus tests, but that one is, like, a pretty
That's
big
a big
one,
one. Mhm.
because when I started out writing, I was writing, for single women who are Christian and trying to navigate a culture obsessed with marriage,
Mm.
and, that litmus test is all about, like, virginity and if you're having sex outside of marriage, but, like, queerness is also wrapped up in that because it's about kind of having the agency to discern your sexual ethics, and, like, not go along with just what you've been told.
Yeah.
Because for me, for a long time, like, my quote unquote "purity," was, like, how I knew that I was a good Christian,
The
how I
gauge.
how
Mhm.
I knew that I was doing a good job. And it's, like, sexuality is such a barometer for so many people, and I remember being in my most recent church that I was part of, and, I mean, this was, like, within months of when I left, having a conversation with, someone about work that I was doing, and I had, like was getting more and more into, like, having friends who were in the LGBTQ community and, interviewing LGBTQ people on my podcast and all of that. This was before I had come out, even just to myself, not even publicly. So I was still cosplaying a straight person is what I call it. So I was still cosplaying a straight person, but, I was talking to someone who was on staff and, I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I brought up, like, theological like, I just brought up, LGBTQ people, because I used to do that towards the end because I was giving fewer and fewer Fs. And I was
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
"Here's how I'm gonna stir the pot just a little bit."
Yeah.
But this guy was like, "Yeah, it's such a shame that when people, have a relationship with someone who is, comes out or whatever, that leads them to compromise their theology. And he
Mm.
told this story about a pastor who he knew, whose child or neighbor or something, came out, and like that caused this pastor to like really examine his theology. And the guy I was talking to was lamenting that pastor became affirming. And it all started with this relationship with this person, his child or her, whoever it was. And I just remember like listening to that and thinking, but shouldn't it? Like,
Yeah.
shouldn't when we're
Shouldn't you question something that is getting in the way of being able to love somebody?
yeah,
Shouldn't
like
you question that?
when you're confronted with someone who is bearing the cost of your theology, like, and they're having a hard time with it, and you can't explain to them why your theology is good news, then you should reexamine your theology.
It's
100%.
exactly what happened to me. It's
Yeah,
exactly what happened to me. Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, and I feel like people look at that as like it's a sin,
yeah,
but it's like I feel like what we're told to do is work out our salvation, work it out, and that means don't just settle because you've been told something. Like really research it. Look for yourself. That's what the Bereans did. I don't know why we tell people look at it, work it out. Look, do what the Bereans did, but then when you work it out and do what the Bereans did, you're on a slippery slope. So I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg.
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, it's the because I was in it was called a seeker-friendly church, so there was a lot of encouragement to explore and to, like, it was very, there was an emphasis too on, like, apologetics, like, having
Mhm.
rational explanations and Bible verses for everything and blah, blah, blah. But there was that kind of encouragement to explore, but there in so many ways, it was, like, up to a certain extent, or maybe it'd be more accurate to say, like, you're free to explore as long as you come to the same conclusions
Mhm.
as we do,
Yes,
and if you
exactly.
don't, then, like, ooh,
Yeah. If you don't, you're wrong.
yikes.
And because we are right, we know we're right because the
Yeah,
Bible is clear. And I think what happens in deconstruction is a lot of people realize the Bible really isn't clear.
yeah,
And what we grow up believing is the absolute truth is actually an interpretation that
yeah,
has been handed down generation after generation from,
yeah,
different teachers. And so, it's like, well, what feels more like Christ? What feels to me, that's where I've landed. It's like, well, what feels more like what Jesus would do? And
yeah,
then I just do that.
yeah. Yeah, I think that, for me, it's always felt more authentic or whatever to go to follow like my empathy and
Mhm.
be a little more relational with how I'm approaching my faith and whatever. It's been very contextual, and I've always had a curiosity for like, okay, but what does this mean for me? Like,
Yeah.
in the what does this mean for actual people? And I think that was yeah, that was such a huge part of my deconstruction, was coming up against so many different parts of myself, my story, the people who I knew, and, like, realizing, okay, these really simple, straightforward ways of interpreting the Bible really aren't working in the context of my actual life. It works for people who are maybe on the more quote unquote traditional path, whatever that means, for
Yeah.
people who maybe want to, I don't know, who are living this seem to be living this kind of life that we've idealized, and that's just not me, and that's never been
Mhm.
me. And I've,
Yeah.
like
And
it
you've made peace with that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing my best to. It's
Well, yeah.
it's a
It's
journey
well,
as they
especially as a people pleaser. Let's talk about that a little bit,
yeah,
Mary
yeah,
B, because I feel like there's a lot of people that listen to my podcast who are deconstructing who are really they're afraid. I mean, I call them invisibles. They're the people who are online who are invisible. They don't want anybody to know that they're listening to my podcast, because then
Yeah.
that would mean they were on a slippery slope. They don't want anybody to know that they like something I post, so they would never like it, because then people would see they liked it, or
Yeah.
repost it, because no, I don't want people to see that I actually agree with this.
Yeah.
But they're the people that are seeking, but they're still sort of caught up in that. I'm afraid to
Yeah.
tick people off. I'm afraid to make people think this about me, because I mean, I know I was one of those people for
Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I was about 6 years into my deconstruction before I finally just said, "Ah, I'm done being quiet. I'm done." I finally feel confident enough in where I am
Mhm.
and how I see things that I can bring it out now. But
Yeah.
that people pleasing, dang it, whoo, it had its nails in me so deep, and it
Mm.
was so hard, and to the point where it's like, I am going to break this person's heart by telling my truth, by being
Mhm.
real about where I'm at, and I would lose sleep over it. Was this
Mhm.
hard for you to peel away from that, and how did you handle that?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard. It's so uncomfortable. It's all I mean, I used to I giggle about it now, but, like and because this still pops up from time to time, but this
Oh,
was
yeah.
one of my things was anytime I hung when I was in, like, the worst, like, depths of my people pleasing and going through therapy to try to figure it out, whatever, um, I would every time I hung out with someone, I would, like, go afterwards, would just go over all of it in my head, like, just rehearse all of it for anything that might have been slightly off, like, might have slightly made them
Yes.
uncomfortable, or if they had a reaction that didn't seem positive to something that I said, and then I would text them and apologize preemptively for that thing.
Girl, you just said exactly what I used to do. I probably still do it. Uh, it's cringy.
Yeah.
It's like that nobody's thinking about it the way you
No,
are. You know what I mean?
like,
Like,
9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, probably, they were like, "What are you talking about?
I don't even
I
remember
don't
this.
remember that."
Yes, I know. The same thing happens to me. But I remember every time something would happen, like a disagreement between me and a friend or whatever, I
Mhm.
would take the blame. Even if it was absolutely
Yeah,
clear that they were to blame, I would throw it on myself, because I figured, well, the relationship with them is more important than me having, you know, a clear
mhm,
conscience or what. And who cares? You know what? Jesus took the sin of the world on him. So I'll just take it on
mhm,
myself, so we
mhm.
can just get rid of it, and then we can move. So there was never any real dealing with anything, because
Yeah,
I would just go, "Yep, it was my fault. Oh my gosh, you're right. I should have never made you feel that way so that you would feel like you had to attack me. That was my fault. It
yeah,
was always my fault.
yeah,
Always." And
yeah,
it is the hardest thing in the world to come out of that,
yeah,
because when you start blaming, like, and putting the blame where it actually belongs, um it feels weird.
yeah.
It feels weird, and it almost feels naughty. But it's a little easier every time you do it, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, totally, totally. Because I was man, everything was my fault. I was responsible for everything.
Everything, everybody's happiness,
Yeah.
everybody's
Oh, yeah.
sin, anything anybody did. If you were on the road and somebody was mad at you, I deserved that. Now I'm like
Yeah.
flipping them back off. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, whatever. You know what? Don't mess with me. I've been through deconstruction.
Yeah. You don't even know.
You have no idea what I've been through.
I mean,
I'm
I think that
strong now.
that is part of the training though, right? For
Yeah.
people socialized as women who grew up or who were part of I mean, purity culture is, like, such a always kind of top of mind for me
Yes.
with this
Yeah.
because that's so how, like, women are conditioned, right? Even if you think about the modesty conversation,
Oh, yeah.
cover up so you don't cause your brother to stumble,
Mhm. So it's your
and
fault if they look at you
it's
weird.
your fault if,
Yes.
like, they have lustful thoughts about you, because you
Oh,
were
yeah.
wearing something that, you were wearing a bathing suit that showed your stomach because everyone knows that stomachs are the
I
most
would have never done
sexual
that, Mary B.
body
I would have
part.
never. I would have only worn a one piece back then. only. But I do remember being in church once. I was a greeter, of course, because I am like
Mhm.
so
Oh,
gregarious,
yeah.
love people. And they're like, let's throw her in front. Yeah, everybody will want to come because she's going to be like their best friend before they leave because they had to love me. You know what I mean? People pleaser.
Mhm.
And I remember wearing a tank top that had spaghetti straps, and I was called into the pastor's office and told, not by him, but by a woman who told,
Oh,
or
of
he
course,
told to tell me,
of course,
um,
because
you
he
need
couldn't
to go
talk
home and
to you.
change
Yeah.
because you are distracting
Yeah.
the men
Yep.
from worshiping the Lord. They're looking at you. And I was
Your
like
shoulders.
horrified. Mary B, I was horrified.
Oh, I'm sure.
I felt like a Jezebel. I went home crying my eyes out, put on a long sleeved shirt, came back so ashamed. And
Yeah.
then the way that I judged whether or not what I was wearing was acceptable was I would stand in front of my husband and I go, "What do you think?" And if he went, "Arr," I was like, "Oh, gotta change." Like if he likes it, no. So I would like put on the button up and because
Mhm.
it was all my fault. It
Yeah.
was all my fault that these poor men
Yeah.
were feeling attracted to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I will never forget how dirty I felt in that moment. Never.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And, as, single women, I think you have a whole other layer because we don't have a
Oh
man
yeah. That's
who's
true. You're after everybody else's.
that's right, we're
Mhm.
the temptresses who are trying to steal people's men's.
I
Uh,
remember thinking this. I hate to say it. I've been married since I was like 12. I'm kidding, 19. But I was very young. And
yeah.
I do remember when I was heavily in church thinking, I don't want that woman in the small group because she's going to come after my man.
Yeah.
Not he's gonna go after her, but
Yeah.
she's gonna come after him, and
Yeah.
I can't compete with this single woman.
Yeah.
I was so insecure, deeply insecure. I looked at other women the way I was looked at,
Yeah.
as this competition and
Yeah.
this person to be weary or, very aware of because
Mhm.
she must be a temptress because
Yeah.
she's pretty or she's, gregarious or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, it was disgusting. I'm so glad I'm free of that. Whew.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so I mean, that's how patriarchy persists,
Mhm.
right? Is us policing each other
Oh,
and us
absolutely.
buying in, and us buying into this was like one of the big things with people pleasing that my therapist would just kind of say to me over and over again is that, you're buying in because you think there's something at the end of it, like there's some sort of benefit for you. And for me, it was like, one day they're gonna like recognize all of my sacrifices and all of this and all of that I've not communicated, by the way. They just
They
know.
should know.
They
They
just
should know
know that it's happening,
because God is
right?
probably
But
revealing it to them.
yeah, but I'm gonna be so good and so compliant
Ugh.
that one day they're just gonna recognize I'm gonna get the recognition and the validation and the whatever that I so desperately want, and my therapist would just be like, "There's no parade at the end of all of this. There's no
Ooh,
parade. No one's
good
gonna be throwing
one.
a parade for." I know, he's got so many of
Ooh,
them.
good one. I need
He's
to
got
have him on the show. Give me all the stuff. Give me
listen,
all the equipment that I
talk
need.
to him, he's a good one.
Ooh.
But yeah, he'd be like, "There's no parade. It's not coming, it's not gonna happen." Right? That's because that's not how it works, and I think, like, w one of the yeah, I think at the end of the day, at my for just I don't know, there's so many examples that I could share about having this kind of realization, but I think, like, in my most recent church, I had this moment where I was like, "Oh, I'm doing all of this work to try to prove myself and earn some credibility in this system that is so not designed to see me as credible." Like, I'm working so hard, I'm volunteering out the yin yang, I've got all of
Oh,
these
yeah.
relationships with people on staff and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm doing so much, but, like, to try to, like, help make this church better and whatever, but, like, they don't wanna change. Like, and also, like,
Mm-mm.
it's never gonna be enough.
No.
It's never gonna
Mm-mm.
be enough because I'm not a
You're
dude.
not a man. You're
I'm
not
not
a
a
white
straight,
male.
white, married dude. I'm not. And so, like, it's never gonna be enough. And,
Mhm.
it was a really hard realization to have, and it kind of was just all confirmed for me when I left the church. I had to be released from membership to be official to, like, get off the membership roll.
Oh my word.
Because that's, that's just how it is. But, I wanted to be officially off the membership by the time I came out publicly, because I had vowed to submit to the authority of the church when I became a member. And so coming out as an affirming person who is gonna be dating across the gender spectrum, could have potentially, they could have called me in for church discipline, and, like, it would have
So you
been
needed to be free of that.
traumatic, and I was like, "I need to be off of this
Mhm.
before I come out." The timing didn't work out because church bureaucracy is slow,
Mhm.
and so I ended up coming out while I was in the process, and, you know, the it ended up coming up during the, like, session meeting where they were talking about me being released from membership because I was, like, really vague with my reasons because at that point, I really didn't have, like, much of a personal relationship with any of the men who were in the room talking about me.
Yeah, of
You
course. Yeah.
and so I was vague, but because I'd come out publicly, they put it together and, apparently talked about it. Um, and yeah, I got the email from the pastor on, uh, Labor Day, 2 years ago, and, it was like that, like, where you can tell they think they're being really kind and generous
Mhm.
and compassionate, but it's
Mhm.
just, like, paternalistic and a little gaslighty, where it's
Oh,
like,
100%. I know
"You're
exactly what
released
you're
from
talking about.
membership, but we do wish that you had, like, come to us to help you, like, work through this important theological issue," the theological issue being my
Bye.
queerness.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, and I, as a people pleaser, like, immediately wanted to just justify myself and whatever, but or
Mhm.
just leave it and be like, "You know what? Thank you, blah, blah, blah." But I spent 3 weeks talking to friends, talking to my therapist, talking to a queer friend who's done a lot of work with churches, and discerning within myself, "Okay, how do I wanna respond to this? Do I wanna respond to this?" And I didn't need to. And
Mhm.
I didn't think it was gonna change anything, not
It
really.
won't. They'll have something else to say. I'm kind of engaging with a woman right now,
Yeah,
in DMs who really thinks she's being kind and lovely
yeah,
and keeps saying, "I'm so sorry. I hope I'm not being oversteppy," but and then she'll do it again, like the
yeah,
gaslighting and the "You're
yeah,
wrong and this is why and here's a scripture and I
yeah,
don't agree with" and I'm like, "Why are you having this conversation with me? You're not listening."
yeah,
You know what I mean? You just want me
yeah,
to believe just like you. Why does this matter to you? Like,
yeah,
do you care about my eternity? You haven't talked to me in years, and all of a sudden, I'm your number one priority. Like,
yeah,
it we see through it, guys. We see through it. We
yeah,
see right through it when you come at us like that. And we've been through it enough to know that you're not going to see it the way we do, but we're
yeah,
not going to see it the way you do because we used to see it that way and now we know better.
yeah, yeah. Like, I have this thing in my head, and I'm a writer and a communicator, and so it just, like, extra cements this in my head, where I have this idea that if I just phrase it perfectly enough, then they're gonna get it,
Yeah.
right? If I have my, like, my sources, if I have my this, if I have my that, then they're gonna get it. And, like, the whole time, that was, like, one of the reasons it took me so long to respond is because I was fighting that the
Mhm.
entire time. 'Cause I was like, "Okay, well, what if I, frame it this way or frame it this way? Or what if I just, like, say 'F it' and just, like, blah, 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 like, word vomit all of the things," and,
Yeah.
um, and I, like, had this moment where, I don't know, I was on draft, like, 12 or something of this email that I was maybe gonna send this pastor, and I had this moment of, like, "You know what? Why, like, I have been like going to this church for 6.5 years. I've been serving this church 6.5 years. Like, am I not, have I not at least, I don't know, is there not, have I not done enough to earn some
Mm-mm. You
benefit of
haven't.
the doubt here?
No.
And where I was like, this person's a pastor, right? Why am I like bending over backwards to be so grace filled and gracious, but I'm like not expecting that in return?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I am worthy, whether I've earned it or not. That's the thing about grace,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I am worthy of being shown grace and being given the benefit of the doubt here, because there is at least some semblance of a relationship, right? I am thought well of in this church. So I did end up sending an email with no expectation that it was going to change anything. But for the single people and for the queer people who were still in that church, you know, I just wanted to, and mostly as an active agency
Mm-hmm.
for myself,
Yes.
um, was like, I'm gonna send the email. And I sent the email, and
Did you throw up right when you push send? Because
oh
like
my
I've had that
god, it
feeling.
was so uncomfortable. I was like, "Ugh."
Oh my gosh, I have a voice and I'm afraid of what it's gonna do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you can't help it. You're like, are you kidding me? Like, no, I've got to stop
Yeah.
being so afraid. Like, I am so tired of being afraid.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I mean, I dealt with a lot of shame as well, and I still
Mhm.
do feel some shame for, like, it's it feels so silly in my head. Like, when I really think about it objectively, I'm like, "What am I afraid?" I'm afraid this dude who doesn't actually get to dictate my worth as a human being, who has no idea who I am, who, like, this random dude, basically, like, I'm afraid that he's gonna have a not nice thought about me. Like, it got to a point where I just felt so ridiculous, and it wasn't the most compassionate way to talk to myself, but, I, like, got to a point where I was like, "My what are y this just sounds ridiculous. It feels
Mhm.
ridiculous," and, like, yes, these are people who had actual authority over me, like, that's a very real thing, and I don't wanna minimize the weight of and the significance and the real world implications of, like, not pleasing someone who has authority over you, like, that's
Who's
a very
holding the umbrella?
yeah,
Somebody who's
that's
holding
a
the umbrella.
very real
Yeah.
thing. But, also on a certain level, it just felt ridiculous. I was like, He's just a dude." Like, he's just a dude. He's
Yeah.
not God. He's not
Mhm.
Jesus.
Well, and
And
his whole career depends on his belief system.
yeah. Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I
He's
mean? Like,
getting
so
paid
you can't
by the
change people
yeah.
like that.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't change them. You can only love them. And figuring out how to do that, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. How do you love somebody who is never going to see you can't convince them any different.
Yeah.
Um, they think they think you're a heathen, they think you're a heretic, they think you've
Yeah.
backslidden, they think you're going to hell. And you just have to decide, does that matter to me?
Yeah.
Does it matter to me what this person thinks when I know better,
Mhm.
when I know my own self? And that's hard. That's a
Yeah.
hard place to be, Mary B.
Yeah. It's really hard.
Mm,
But, coming out, like, has been really good for that.
mhm. Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of good regard
I was
from
gonna say, I don't know
people.
that you lost friends. I think you lost people you thought were your friends, but
Yeah.
I'm realizing that too, just in deconstruction. Like I'm losing people who I thought were friends, but really they only liked me for what I believed, not for who
Yeah.
I was. And when
Yeah.
your beliefs change and their feelings about you change, because my feelings about them haven't changed. Like I get why this works for some people. I get
Yeah.
it.
Totally.
Some people it's a safe place. And listen, people leave because they don't feel safe anymore. They
Yeah.
don't feel safe under the umbrella.
Yeah.
They would rather dance in the rain than be shielded, because and that's okay too. Like if you feel better under the umbrella and that's where you feel safe, then freaking stay under that umbrella and I'll still love you. I don't care. Just don't do no harm. But for some reason, when you come out into the rain and you start dancing, they don't love it.
Yeah.
And you realize they don't really love you. If they did, they would stay.
Yeah, and I think too, I had to accept that some relationships, because I had some really like there are a few relationships that I had in that church that I really no longer have that were hugely healing for me
Yeah.
as I was going along this path. It's just my path went a different direction at
Right.
a certain point, and the friendship could not expand with.
Yeah.
And, like, grieving that and learning to make peace with that. I mean, there's some that I still have a really hard having a really hard time
Yeah.
accepting,
That is hard.
because yeah, like, I guess was fortunate in some ways where I didn't get, texts from people worried about my soul or, like, any of the, like, "You have to renounce your sin or we
Yeah.
can't be friends." Like, I didn't get any of that. I got the ghosting.
Yeah. The silence, which is worse.
Yeah, they're
Hmm.
I don't know, they're both bad. Um, they're they're both, like, but with there's no, like, definitive moment or closure. There's still that ambiguity of, like, well, I guess I could reach out, or, like, I don't really know how they're feeling, but, sometimes I don't know. I don't know. I still, like, just am very in process with some of those relationships. And another thing my therapist says is that you have to make your own closure. And I know that that's true, because even if you have the big final conversation, like, you're still going to have questions and blah, blah, blah. So you have to make your own closure. And I know that it's just, I don't know what that looks like with some of them, because, like, I was going to be like an aunt to their kids. And, you know, like, they were some of my closest friends who I thought knew me the best and loved me the best, and, that's changed, and what do you do with that, you know?
Yeah. I'm so sorry. My dogs are losing their minds. I think clearly somebody is using a weed eater
Oh,
outside,
yeah.
and I think they must see that person. So
Mhm.
forgive me, everyone, but you're probably going to hear some things happening. This is called real life.
Yeah,
And
I'm
yeah.
surprised you haven't heard ambulances on my end.
Oh,
There's
yeah, that's right. New York
there's
City.
usually at least a few that come by while I'm recording, but knock on wood.
Yeah,
Watch.
I'm like, I always say my dogs are my co-hosts because, every now and then the Amazon guy comes while
Yeah,
while I'm on the air.
yep.
But no, that's a really difficult and I think incredibly relatable point that you just made is like when you have to lose people, that when you just it's okay though. Like I think I needed to understand that not everybody had to love me, not everybody had to agree with me.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it is a love of some sort to part ways sometimes
Yeah.
because it does get too hard. And so there are some people in my life I love them way better from over here than being in their life because it
Mhm.
it brings them discomfort. And I've even had to
Oh,
block
totally.
people on social media who every time I would post something they would send me a DM of like, "Oh my gosh, Leslie, you're so scaring me. Oh my gosh, oh, this is terrible." And and I
Mhm.
was bringing this anxiety out in them. And
Yep.
so I would write to them and I would say, I'm going to block myself from your feed.
Yeah.
Basically, I was blocking them, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the way I put it was, I don't want to make you feel this way, but this is my space to be who I am and who I'm becoming.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't make you feel safe to see what I'm saying, I would rather you not see it.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't love you, it's because I do. It's
Yeah.
because I don't want to be the source of your anxiety. I don't want to be the source of your angst. I need to be able to feel free to be who I am and who I've been created to be in this season of my life.
Yeah.
And that has like every time I can walk into a new space of freedom, and that is another one of them, I
Mhm.
just breathe so much better. I'm like, how did I breathe before when
Yeah.
I was so worried
Yeah.
about what they thought and oh my gosh. And I can't, you know, what if instead, you know what I would have done before? Probably what you would have done too, Mary B. I would have probably stopped talking about what mattered to me
Yeah.
to protect that person
Yeah.
because that's how much I love them. And, but this is my space. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
my safety net. Like if you don't feel safe here, then I will release you and in love to just go and be with people who are going to say what makes you very comfortable if
Mhm.
that's what you need.
Yeah.
But I always tell people, but if you decide you're ready to hear what I'm saying, please come back.
Yeah.
That's all. You
Yeah.
know, but that's hard. Oof. I think the beauty is, and I'm sure you and I can both mention probably a laundry list of things that have been restored into our life, even though we've lost, you know, this
Oh,
laundry
yeah.
list over here.
Yeah.
There's this other laundry list that we're making that has been restored. And that's
Yeah.
just life. That's what happens. And
Yeah.
uh, I honor your journey, Mary B. That was
Thank you.
it's so beautiful what you're doing, what you're going through. As hard as it is, I do think that these are the seasons we grow the most.
Yeah.
Um, thank you for being on the show. And
Yeah.
thank you for what you do in your space with communication and helping people feel safe and loved and accepted right where they are. And so if you want to find out more about Mary B, you can go to Found Family. That's her podcast. You also have a website. You want to talk a little bit about how we can find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on Substack, marybsafrit.substack.com, where I send a monthly free newsletter. It's just a bit of writing about a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, the intersection of queerness and faith, healthy relationships, community building, found family, all that jazz.
Love it.
And then I also have a paid list if you want more of the good stuff for just $5 a month. You can get a weekly message. And yeah, so that's Substack. Found Family is my podcast. It's on wherever you get podcasts, pretty much. Apple, Spotify, all the places. And we have some really lovely conversations over there about that celebrate the creative ways folks are making community in their actual lives and
Mm.
helping listeners do the same. And
I love
then
that. That's so needed in this
yeah.
community of deconstructors.
Oh my gosh, I have some like I just get to talk to the coolest people. I don't know if you feel that way, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I get to
I
talk
have to
to
pinch myself.
people.
You guys
Like
are so cool.
one of my most recent guests, Nia Caramonti, she just released a book today
Oh,
about
fun.
her. It's a memoir about her coming out journey. She is a trans woman, and it's just so beautiful and wonderful. And like, I'm just so happy that I get to know her and cheer her on. And just, I feel that way about all of my guests. They're all
Oh,
just
yeah.
so interesting and deep and wise and wonderful. So yeah, that's my podcast. And then I'm on social media, mostly Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at maryb.safrit.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with just such honesty and realness and it was so relatable so many ways. So thank you for being with us today, Mary B.
Thanks for having me. It was such a delight.